every month. My mother-in-law received $680 from us, yet she still asked for more help. She kept nagging my husband to fund her desires for trips and designer handbags. But my husband refused, saying we couldn't afford such luxuries. My mother-in-law was infuriated, directing her anger towards me, saying living off my son's earnings and yet acting like a high and mighty wife, huh? She accused me of being the reason my husband was reluctant to give her money, instructing me to save more so my husband could have more to spend freely. According to her, being a housewife made me a parasite in my husband's life, insisting I should refrain from any kind of luxury. Taking her words to heart, I decided to start saving immediately by reducing the most unnecessary expenses in our household. My name is Elma. I've been married to Carl for 4 years, and we don't have children yet. He's a salaried employee, and I'm a stay-at-home wife. Doesn't she realize she's being financially supported? After each contact with her, my husband would sigh, clearly frustrated. Initially, we sympathized with her claims of being unable to work due to weak legs. But now it seems more like an excuse to get financial aid. I wonder if it's time to stop sending money to her, because words like that spilled out from my husband's mouth. But surely, if we were to abruptly cut off the financial support, mother-in-law would struggle with her daily living expenses. Knowing mother-in-law, she would barge into our home, creating a huge fuss. It would be unbearable if she forced herself to move in with us. Moreover, even though she's a pain, if mother-in-law were to end up penniless, it wouldn't sit well with us. We had promised to never assist her with more than a fixed amount of money, and have lived by that until now. Then one day, while my husband and I were having dinner, his phone rang. It was a call from mother-in-law. "We're eating now. I'll call back later," my husband said to me as he took his eyes off the screen and placed the phone on the table. But the call from mother-in-law didn't stop ringing. It seemed like she wouldn't stop until I answered. My husband showed an annoyed expression and finally pressed the answer button. Mother-in-law's voice was loud, and although faint, I could hear it too. She probably plans to ask for something again. While thinking about what a troublesome person she is, I continued eating and leaned in to listen to my husband. Then, my husband raised his voice. "A trip abroad? You've already booked it. And it costs $3,400. What are you talking about? There's no way we can afford that." Apparently, this time she was asking for money to fund her trip. My husband briefly glanced at me while stuffing a salad into his mouth. I shook my head and said, "I'm sorry, but we can't spare that kind of money at home. We just don't have the financial flexibility. I have my own family too, and no matter how you put it, I can't afford such luxuries even for my mom." As always, my husband firmly denied mother-in-law's request and hung up the phone immediately. He resumed eating and started venting about mother-in-law. It seemed like mother-in-law had booked a trip on her own, expecting us to handle the payment, and the trip cost $3,400. It's a ridiculous amount. Recently, her bullying towards me has escalated, and we concluded that it's necessary to have a serious conversation with mother-in-law. We promised to visit mother-in-law's house the next weekend to discuss it. The next day, after my husband went to work, mother-in-law came over while I was cleaning at home. Right upon entering, mother-in-law started accusing me aggressively. "You're the one who told my son not to help me financially, aren't you?" she exclaimed. "You greedy daughter-in-law." She must be really angry about being denied financial assistance for the trip. Mother-in-law started yelling harsh words at me suddenly. I replied calmly, "We are already helping you with $680 a month. We cannot afford to provide money for leisure activities. If you want to play, can you please work and pay for it yourself?" I thought I was saying something reasonable, but my words only made her even angrier, and she glared at me more fiercely. There, she began to scream at me, stomping her feet angrily. "You leech, living off my son's income and acting all high and mighty. It must be your fault that my son is hesitating to help me. You parasite." She kept yelling nonstop. Being a housewife, I am not a parasite living off my husband. If I weren't here, my husband could offer more financial assistance to her. I explained, trying to remain calm. She vehemently stated these points while spitting saliva. "Because of you, my son has less money to spend. It's not like you, the greedy wife, are being restricted while living luxuriously as a parasite, right? You should save more so that my son can have more money to spend." She demanded that I forgo all luxuries. Even though I was listening calmly, her unreasonable demands were making me angry. Until now, I've endured not letting my husband's mother end up homeless. But surely I don't need to show compassion when treated this way. Besides, I don't want to deal with this person anymore, I thought to myself. I understand, I said to her, trying to defuse the situation. I will make an effort to save more from this month onwards. I will make sure not to make any unnecessary expenses. I said that to her and bowed my head. Seeing this, she snorted in disapproval. She snorted and smirked. It seems like you finally understand your place. If you don't want to be abandoned by my son, learn to behave better. It's only natural to devote yourself to your husband's mother. Satisfied that I didn't resist, my mother-in-law hastily left our home. Well then, I'm counting on you for the $3,400 in travel expenses, she said, leaving with a parting shot like that. Stings tickets for the Sussex. After my mother-in-law left, I immediately contacted my husband, explaining her actions and the words she had hurled at me. Consulting with my husband, we decided to start saving money. So, I decided to cut down on the most unnecessary expense in our household. Just as my mother-in-law instructed, we started saving the following month. Around dinner time, she visited our home. Hey, the money for this month hasn't been transferred. What's the meaning of this? She asked. Also, where's the $3,400 for the travel expenses? Pay it right away. With a red, furious face, she was yelling at my husband and me. To my mother-in-law, I replied with a smile, we're just following your advice and saving money. We realized that the only unnecessary expense in our home was sending you money each month, so we've decided to stop it from this month. And of course we won't pay the travel expenses either, as it's a waste of money. We have to save money for the sake of my husband, right? She was dumbfounded at my response. It seemed to take her a while to comprehend. Sure, after about a minute, she raised her voice again. You damn daughter-in-law? Don't mess with me. It's the money my son earned, isn't it? It's not for you to decide how to use it. She was closing in on me furiously, as if ready to grab me at any moment. That's when my husband stepped in, shielding me. He then told his mother a fact. There's no way I can send you $680 every month on my own salary. It wasn't me, but Elma who has been providing the money, he revealed. Although I am a housewife, I actually have a monthly income. I inherited a parking lot from my grandfather, which provides a steady passive income. I always shared this information with my husband. People tended to become envious or try to take advantage when they learned about the passive income, causing trouble, as my mother had warned me when I inherited the parking lot. Surely, if a person like my mother-in-law knew about it, she would demand money without hesitation. So, I kept this information to myself, and have been using this income to send money to my mother-in-law. Thanks upon learning the truth, my mother-in-law fell silent, considering she had been bullying me, who had been sending her money all this while. She might have had some thoughts. Suddenly, she started to smile and apologize to me, trying to save face. So dear, you should have told me sooner. My bad. I'm sorry for getting angry. Let's get along well from now on, she said. The moment she knew I had money, she changed her tune immediately. At her words, I just shook my head. Then, on my behalf, my husband spoke up. I'm sorry, but we can't continue this relationship anymore. We'll stop the financial support and move away from this house. We're cutting ties with you. Please live your life as you please. After everything that had happened up until now, and with this incident, we decided to cut ties with her. We will no longer send any money, and we won't meet her either. Huh, why? She asked. This will put me in a tough spot. How am I supposed to survive? She turned pale instantly, starting to tremble. I sneered at her and said, why are you leeching off your son and daughter-in-law if you can't sustain yourself? You're being discarded because you don't even understand that you're the parasite here. She froze at my words. My husband and I proceeded to kick her out of the house, and we never met her again. Later, we moved away, far from the city where she lived. Of course, we didn't inform her about our new address. I blocked her contact details, cutting off any connection with her. We have kept a line of communication open with my husband just in case, and it seems she has contacted him several times. Currently, it seems she is living and working at a lodging in her area. She apparently had to cancel her overseas trip. She seems to be working tirelessly, probably due to the debts she accrued without our knowledge. But I'm certain that her intention is not to apologize, but to get her hands on my money. She probably plans to borrow money from me to write off her debts. I can see right through her, taking advantage of our kindness and continuously pushing her luck. This is typical of her. Life without her has been blissful for us as a couple. We did reflect on why we didn't make this decision sooner, but all's well that ends well. The next time we'll probably meet her will be at her funeral. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you resonated with the content, please leave a positive rating and a comment.